Okay, let's talk systems. People tend to get the wrong end of the stick as far as what they do for their own business. And because of that, they leave a lot of leverage on the table. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 4 different ideas that will radically change how you manage your B2B service. And I'm going to start off from the perspective of the person who is absolutely working balls to the wall 19 hours a day and is still not making a dent in their fulfillment. So this is a system, or this is sort of like a plateau that happens a lot with a lot of different people. They get to a point where their offers absolutely flying, and they can close a bunch of deals, but then closing a bunch of deals means bringing on a bunch of clients, and that reduction in capacity means that there's too much work on you and your team's plate. So what you do is you then stop the sales to fulfill, get the backlog out of the way, and then restart sales. But what ends up happening when you do that is your revenue goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And this is the reason why there are so many agencies, B2B services, and all types of other businesses which rely on having a lot of employees to do the work. This is the reason why they're stuck between that 20, 25, 30K, 30K, 35K per month mark, wherever this point ends up happening. And it happens at almost every single stage in the creation of a business. If you're working by yourself and you have 4 clients, but you also have a 9 to 5, and you got to look after like your little sister on a Saturday, you have 6 days a week. You also don't have the block between 9 and 5. You can only feasibly work on your business for 3 to 4 hours a day. You're at 8K. You have 4 clients. You do not have time for anything else other than service provision, because on the Saturday you're done. The Sunday is completely dedicated towards the business. 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is gone, and the start of the day or the end of the day is usually gone as well. So there, at every single point, there is this point of self-maximization where there just is too much work to be done at any one particular phase. Now, an unheard solution to this is to know what you are, so that you can create the highest efficiency version of your service. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So there are activity groups. If you look at any, like big consulting firm, like a McKinsey or a KPMG, whatever it may be, right? They often do customer segmentation, and customer segmentation is taking let's say a massive business that's doing 9 figures, has tens of thousands of customers, and the customer information is something that they have access to, and they're doing further market research just to understand who their biggest paying or highest LTV customer is. Well, there are 4 ways that you can skin this cat. You can do demographic, psychographic, and there's like 2 other, like geographic and 1 other type of customer segmentation, in order to segment everybody and kind of get a clearer understanding of the groups of people that actually belong to your service, or the groups of people that you sell. In the same way, there are 4 activity groups that will take place in any B2B service. This covers, 80 to 90% of the services that I've ever come across, and all of the actions that occur within those services. So taking this idea, you can very easily picture what you do for a service and put yourself in one of these 4 boxes, or a couple of these boxes, depending on how big your service is. So there's 4 of them, right? 4 main activity groups. 1 is an assembly line. Number 2 are funnels. 3 are async systems, and 4 are event handlers. So I'm going to go through all 4 of these in relevant detail. So assembly lines, these are any aspect of your service where it's one specific deliverable produced in the same way every single time. So if you are an email marketer that makes emails on Klaviyo, if you make newsletter emails via MailChimp or ActiveCampaign for different people, or Beehive, whatever it may be, if you're a short form editor, long form editor, if you do podcasts for people, if you're a web developer of any way, shape or form, whether it be landing pages, full builds, or funnels, if you create advertorials, if you write long form copywriting sales letters, if you make software, or you build different internal systems for people, but it's the same system every time, if you create hardware, if you create things in a factory like cars and planes and all this good stuff, IoT, widgets, all of that, they all belong on assembly lines. And assembly lines go from left to right. They are something at the start, which goes through a bunch of processes and then comes out the other end complete. It's exactly what you think when you think of an assembly line. And any deliverable that you produce, which is the same deliverable every single time, is something that was generated from an assembly line process. So that's kind of like the first one. Number two, funnels. Any service where what goes in doesn't always come out because things get rejected, fall out of the system, or don't make it to the end. Those are funnels. Now, funnels are ubiquitous across sales and across a lot of marketing in general. But also there are certain times where things just don't make it to the end in a pipeline or assembly line, which is fine, but it's not the intended purpose of the system. Recruitment also falls into this bucket as well, as far as funnels are concerned, because you're going to get a bunch of people in from the application. Only a few of them get to the trial stage. Only a few of those people get to the interview stage, and only a few of the interview people get to the second stage, third stage, fourth stage interviews, and then end up getting hired in the first place. So this is an example of a funnel which is for cold email. And this idea of the funnel for cold email was not the delivery of this service. Cold email, if you are like a lead generation agency, for example, or you are part of the marketing team for a larger company, and your sole job is to churn out cold email campaigns and cold outreach campaigns, then that would be on the pipeline or assembly line stage, because you're churning out campaigns. It's a CSV with people data in it. It's copy, and that you stick the two together, put them in a software, and then you send them out. So the idea of a funnel in this sense is just, you've got deliverability here, then you've got out of office replies, so the people who have autoresponders, then you have the useless replies from people who are just unqualified or not interested or say do not contact me again. Then you have the useful replies, which are requests for further information from people that you actually want to work with. And then you have booked calls. So this is an example of a funnel for a particular thing that happens in the middle of the process of, getting a call booked on the calendar. But the funnel for recruitment, for example, would be applications like made for the person, application accepted, interview stage 1, trial, final interview, and then at the end would be hired. So those are funnels. Then you've got asynchronous systems. So these are services where there is no set order of activity, and there is instead just a huge list of to-dos. In this sense, there's a higher variety of things that need to be done, but there's less depth involved. There are different deadlines for different things. Certain things can get blocked. For example, if if part of your job is to create and scale a sales team, like that is your sole role and responsibility at this business, then you won't be able to, if let's say, for example, you're trying to get another BDR or an SDR, but there are 0 SOPs, or the sales script or the call script isn't good. Item A on your list of to-dos is to fix the cold call script. Item B is to hire the BDR. But hiring the BDR at the same time as fixing the cold call script are things that, one may block the other in that sense. And it's ubiquitous across higher level generalist work like fractional CFO, fractional CRO, fractional CMO, even a lot of CTOs. In previous SaaSes that I've worked at and started myself, the CTO is running around just coding different things that show up on linear, whether they be bugs from the customer service team, or they be parts of the roadmap that need to, for like the features roadmap, basically. And in this situation, the less repetition there is, the harder it is to codify and simplify. So more often than not, you'll end up either delegating very tiny bits to certain people, or just getting someone like an executive assistant to come in and do some of the asynchronous stuff because they know what you need, and they just end up doing a lot of, heavy lifting across a bunch of different items. Just like a number two, basically, like a minion, for example. And then number four, you have event handlers. And event handlers are usually assembly lines. Sometimes they're not assembly lines, but they're assembly lines with a time sensitive element to them. It is something has come in, something needs to come out. Something has come in, something needs to come out. And the best example of that would be, in fact, recruitment, not so much, but appointment setters and SaaS customer service are probably the two biggest things here. So if you're doing cold email lead generation, for example, and you have 15 clients and 30 campaigns are out for these clients, hundreds or thousands of emails per day is being sent per client, and you are fielding responses that are of a bunch of different kinds. Once you see a response that is a request for further information, a request for a meeting, a thank you but not interested, but it's something that you feel like you can pull back, you need to be able to go into that thing and take them from a response to a booked call. If you're an inbox manager, for example, if you're a setter who is in the middle of a funnel, for example, you work for a coaching program and you're just calling people who just applied to the application after the VSL, the moment the application comes in and they meet certain criteria, they fall on your plate and they need to be progressed. Those are event handlers, because it's A, you pick up the phone, B, you call them, C, you call them again if needs be, D, you book them in on a call. And A, B, C, D, that is the entire job. It's a pipeline. So in order of productization, it is pretty simple when you see it, because almost all of these items can be productized in some way, shape, or form, but some just look way easier to productize in and of themselves. So number one is assembly lines and or pipelines, if you want to call them. They're kind of interchangeable as far as names are concerned, because the process almost never changes. For you to change the assembly line completely is to change service in its entirety. A lot of single service and productized agencies who generate, one thing. We are an email marketing company that creates flows and campaigns. We are a landing page agency that creates landing pages. You can get one landing page for $2,000 or 3 landing pages for $5,000. We create, custom Airtable builds for different B2B companies, or for the exact same type of B2B company. Great. You're doing this, then this, then this, then this. Almost all of that can be templatized, can be productized, can be fed to an AI, fine-tuned AI, in fact, can be fed to a fine-tuned AI and just spat out, just continually spat out. Event handlers that are pipelines can also be automated as well. So there's a proliferation recently of AI appointment setters that are made out of voice flow, and also AI agents, which is something that I'm seeing a lot of people using NAN and vector databases to download a bunch of, I'm going to sweat the details here, but you have a bunch of SOPs and documentation. You feed it into a Google Drive. This database eats that Google Drive, and then every message that gets sent to the system where this database is held spits out either an action, which is predetermined by the system or the agent, or it spits out some extra text, which just goes off and does some other stuff. AI agents are something that are very, very, very useful when you have any sort of assembly line system. And they're also very useful when you are dealing with event handlers, because a lot of the times, if you were to get, for example, in the previous example with the funnels, right? Someone applies on the funnel, that it's like 1 a.m. They're crying in bed because something is wrong, and they have come across an ad which actually may be the solution to the problem that they have. If they go in and apply at 1 a.m. and none of your workers are awake, you either need to have a night shift person who's in a different location, or you could have an AI setter who will get there within 5 minutes of the message even coming through. So event handlers can be AIified and they can be automated in a lot of senses. Funnels, can also be fairly productized, but not all actions will arrive where specified. So it's mostly automated. A lot of the problems will occur where the first couple of steps are really manual steps. So if, for example, and this is, and one of my videos is an AI inbox manager, which actually solves for the fact that some of those first steps are really hard. If step number one for example, inbox management is, hey, I just got a reply. I need to see what the reply is and then determine if it even needs to be acted on, and then act on it, and then wait for the next reply, and then see if it needs to be acted on, act on it, and then so on and so forth. If you can't automate or AI your way around those first two parts of that funnel, then 80% of the work that will occur on that funnel will be manual, because the idea behind a funnel is that a lot goes in, but not a lot comes out. You could send 10,000 people emails and only book 10 calls and only book 5 calls. So if you have a lot of automation at the bottom of that funnel, it's only happening 5 times. It's not happening the other 10,000 times that things need to occur. So if you have a funnel in any way, shape, or form, and you're looking for a way to productize things, look at the first 2 or 3 steps that occur in that funnel, because that will be 90% of the work that can be done to save time, which is exactly what we did with the AI inbox manager. Number 4 is async. Now, async events, async systems, you're just running around doing a bunch of different things. And project management really only serves to keep your memory intact. So there are a bunch of different things that I've already mentioned that will help you productize in all of these 4 situations. And the first one is templates. If you are, for example, you're making, I think I've already mentioned this in here, the non-custom software. The reason why I didn't put custom software here is because custom software requires writing lines of code or writing lines of no code. If you are building automations and the automations are the thing that runs the non-custom software, or you're writing lines of code and you need to write lines of code every single time in completely new ways, then you run into a problem where you're unable to completely productize everything that's in front of you. If you have a template, for example, in Make, you can download the blueprints of each automation that you make. And if those blueprints need to be made for every single client that you bring on, you can just copy and paste the blueprint. You can just click and drag the blueprint and boom, it will just appear. If that is one thing that you can always do to make things easier. So those are, and templates work not just for automations in this sense, but SMS templates inside of Close. If you have a setter that's going in, just texting people all the time. You have email templates that do the same thing. And there are tons of other versions of templates as well, because those email templates are not just parts of the automation that would occur if, for example, someone goes into short-term nurture inside of your CRM and they just get hit with an email on day 1, day 5, day 9, day 12, day 15, and so on and so forth. But also for all of the things that could happen. So if you have an event handler situation, i.e. an inbox manager who is running around trying to get to a bunch of information request type emails, a bunch of people saying, hey, how much is this service? I'm not really trying to jump on the call if this is out of budget. Hey, like, can I see some of your case studies? How much is your service? Do you work with X, Y, and Z type of company? These are all things that you can templatize. And once you've templatized those, you have everything that you need to make that part of the system easy to go. So that's templates. That's number 1. Number 2 would just be pure automations, just a trigger which leads to a bunch of actions that happen outside of your purview. Number 3 would be AI. AI mixes in with automation very well, because AI can create unstructured data. It can create the email, half of the email that you need. It can create the plan for the sales letter that you're writing. It can create the template for it can create like an outline of the advertorial that you're about to make. It can produce angles for you if you're creating cold emails and you have information on the prospects or on the client that you're working with, and they've told you who their prospects are and you're trying to find more of them. The easiest way for you to create campaigns that work very well or create a number of ideas that could lead to campaigns that would work very well would be to create angles. And those angles can be created by AI. AI can produce unstructured data, and it can also produce structured data. AI can actually code. Like, if you've not seen AI code before, then I don't know where you've been. And also, inside of these automation softwares, you can create what's called JSON objects. So let me pull up Make and see if I can find an example of one of these, right? Yeah, so in my lead generation onboarding flow, for example, I have a GPT prompt, which is asking GPT to turn a pricing model, which is just as simple as, 2K a month retainer for 90 days into a JSON object, which is just JSON code. And it's just a button that you would just have. It's just here. Response format is this object. And it will just spit out code on your behalf out of very unstructured data. So you can turn data from structured to unstructured or unstructured to structured. And that is why AI and automation go completely hand in hand. So if you're looking for, 3 ways to make things easier on your behalf in the code realm, it's templatizing things, templates, AI, automation. And number 4 would be a project management or a backend system / database or table that you can use to house a lot of things like IDs, URLs, and a bunch of other stuff that can speak to the rest of the things that you have. So if in Airtable, for example, and I'm going to, again, sweat the details because this is stuff that doesn't take a lot of time to do, but is not 100% relevant in, going into the nitty gritty here. But if you had like an Airtable base, for example, which had, a client name, but within that client name, you have the ID of the Slack channel that they belong to. You have their email, you have their phone number, you have their company name, you have the URL of the company, you have his Facebook link, whatever it may be, right? You can do things with AI, automation, and templates that can absolutely surprise the hell out of that client. We've used those 4 things, just a database, AI, automation, and templates, to send client gifts off to people without us even touching any of the process. The moment the PandaDoc gets signed, they basically immediately get a mug they get a mug and a pen with a notepad with their initials on it in the post in like 7-9 days later. So these are things that you can do to increase the productization of your service. And if you are in the pipeline / assembly line, event handler, or funnel business, then look into having a lot of those things done, because there are a ton of people, myself included, who create assembly lines for people. And those assembly lines can be very, very powerful with what's available today. So if you find that you're at the point of self-maximization, or client results are good, but your ability to grow isn't as great as you thought it was because your profit margins are low, and you're trying to look for other ways to get some leverage back other than plowing more and more staff into your business, then take a look at templates, AI, automation, and different backend systems. My service basically creates these things for people who really and truly are in the assembly line business for, like, websites, funnels, emails, and other things that can just be AI agentified. So again, these are things that there's a lot of stuff online in order to, understand a bit more about this. So yeah, if you're looking for any more information on this, I'm going to be making a bunch more videos which cover exactly how to think about the service that you have so that you can make the service work in your favor and get as many clients through the door with basically as little people working for you as humanly possible.